That's probably not going to work. Well, welcome to the first meeting of the Las Vegas Rotary Club in the new calendar year, program year 2020-2021. Thank you to all of you who came to the meeting live. Thank you to all of you who are watching the Facebook live stream. And for those of you who ask, can we do something in addition to that, go back to the Zoom or some similar meeting, we are working on that. It does require a little bit more technology that we're trying to get put in place. So hopefully we'll have a way for all 140 members to participate every week, because obviously by the end of this program year, we expect to have 500 members, and we definitely won't all fit in this. Did I say something funny? I mean, 500 members is achievable, isn't it? We'll start with an invocation from Mike Ballard. President-elect Mike Ballard, excuse me.
Bow your heads, please. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. We come to thee in gratitude for the privilege we have to associate with one another, and for the great mission of Rotary, and for the service that we're able to do every week and every month as we stay involved. We're grateful for our health and our ability to be here. We pray for those that are unable to be here. We pray that if any are sick or afflicted, that they may be blessed according to thy will. We're grateful for the opportunities that we have, and we pray that we can be helpful and serve our fellow man in any way we can. We ask thee to bless the food to our nourishment and help us to have a great day today. In the name of our Savior, amen.
Well, the governor's guidelines for reopening don't have special rules for Rotary meetings. They do have rules for daycare centers and schools and other places where people typically sing a song. And and Rotary also has a recommendation to clubs as we reopen to look for innovative ways of helping to stop the spread of the virus. And we are strongly encouraged to use recorded music rather than sing out loud, which apparently is one of the worst ways of transmitting droplets in the air. And I see our speaker, who's more of an expert on this than I'll ever be, nodding his head yes, so apparently that's true. So at least for a short period of time, hopefully a short period of time, we will use recorded music. And we're going to use a song that has come to be widely known as the anthem of the COVID pandemic recovery, which I struggle with whether or not to use it, because I know we typically use more patriotic songs, but I'm thrilled to say I watched a couple of the July 4th specials on TV, including the one being broadcast from Washington, D.C., and every one of them used this song. So I think it's close enough to a patriotic song.
Every rainbow has to have an end. A pot of gold or dreams foretold may not be there, my friend. In this high and mighty world we live in, sometimes we have to break, sometimes we have to bend, until the good times come again. I'll see you then, when the good times come when the good times come again, when the good times come again. Hope we both survive the world out there. You never know what wind will blow, so don't forget I care. And don't forget the way we felt together. Sometimes we have to hold to all the good that's been, until the good times come again. I'll see you then, when the good times come again, when you and I have made it back from the people and the places we have been. I'll see you then, when the good times come again. The door that we go out of is the door that we come in. When the good times come again, when the good times come again, I'll see you then, when the good times come again, when you and I have made it back from the people and the places we have been. I'll see you then, when the good times come again. The door that we go out of is the door that we come in. When the good times come again, I'll see you there. When the good times come again, when you and I have made it back from the people and the places we have been.
So for those of you who are Fanilows and have been missing him over at the West Gate, you got a freebie. And now, if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. And we are Facebook live streaming, I believe. Thank you. And it looks like we have a full house at the birthday table, the July birthday table. And so, Rose, if you would take the microphone to the birthday table and
Where's the birthday table?
right behind you.
Oh. Hi, guys.
Mike Kudamat. This is my 4th summer with Rotary. I started with Dave Thor here. We participated in his debunking, which was unforgettable. I got Mike Gordon, the next one, and then Jackie Thornhill, and then Richard here, the 4th. I was connected with Rotary when I was 15, when I was a Rotary exchange student. So Rotary has been in my blood, you might say. And I'm glad to be a member of Rotary Club, Las Vegas. Thank you.
I'm Steve Linder. I've been a member of this club since 1995, past president 2014, 2015, and I consider you all my extended family, and I thank you very much for your support.
Lloyd Sauter, I've been here. Wow, I don't even want to think how long it's been. I'm 81 or 80 years old. I don't want to overdo it. Does anybody time me? And I want to thank everybody. I've been in this club. Bob O'Connell from J.C. Penney's brought me in 1969, I believe it was. We used to play down at the tower downtown. That's where we used to have our meeting. It was great fun. Thank you.
And Rose, I think there's more people at the birthday
Yes,
table
and I
that
think
stood
they
up.
need to be fined. I'm standing
perhaps-
next to one.
David would like to say something before he gets fined. Past President David.
We're just following social distancing guidelines, Mr. President, and this was the only available chair.
All right, but that's acceptable. So since you're sitting across from an 80-year-old, we'll only fine you half of that, $40. Thank you for your contribution.
Do guests get fined as well? I understand he's a guest. Not a guest? Oh. Oh, wait a minute. You are a member. Oh, you're trying to get away with it. Okay, you're going to have to be fined as well.
All right.
Well, I appreciate the fine. I hope it's not too much. And I'm happy to be here with everyone, considering everything that's been going on. And I wish nothing but health and prosperity.
Well, that's very kind of you to say that. And I was going to fine you $80 for sitting next to Lloyd, but we'll make yours only $60. Thank you very much. And
Hold on. More birthdays, I guess.
How's everybody? Today's my birthday with my twin brother, and I've been a member of the club for decades. And I told my dad this morning, he's 97, I said, do you remember the story when we were born? He went running back to the office to tell everybody, and the hospital had called ahead and told his parents that they had twins, and he was just, dang.
well, no, keep the microphone.
Okay.
We're not done. We'll fine you $50 for that.
Okay.
For not sitting at the birthday table. But you've also been ratted out by one of our other members who indicates that you are a candidate for a fine. Do you want to tell us about your daughter and some wonderful things that have happened recently?
Oh, yes, yes. Last Sunday, we had our 25th grandchild. Our daughter, Marietta, is in Glendale, California, and she's our baby, and then she had a baby boy.
Congratulations.
And this was an interesting test of patience from our wife. She didn't get the phone call to come down till Wednesday, because those millennials, they got to try it for a while, you know. And then finally Wednesday, my daughter called and said, Dad, when are you leaving town? I said, tomorrow morning. She said, Mom, could you come down tomorrow? And Andrew said, I'm on my way. Everybody's doing well. Baby's healthy. Mom and Dad are doing great. Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you for your $250 contribution.
Any more birthdays in the room?
I don't see anyone else here. I think Kathy or Deb Granda or Arlene, if you're watching on live stream, happy birthday. Or Dan, I'm sorry, Dan Adamson also. I think we're all people that said they were going to be watching on Facebook. So, Rose, are you the person that's going to lead us in singing happy birthday to the birthday Rotarian?
Are you kidding? My voice? Who's a singer in here? Who? Oh, Ted. Hello. Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
All right, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarian. Happy birthday to you and many more.
And we'll take some of these out of order so that we don't have rows popping up and down. Do you want to take the microphone over to Tom Thomas? But I didn't see Renee here, so I'm going to pick on you to tell us about the status of the Alpine picnic planning.
Well, that's easy. It's going to be at my place, and I have no idea what the date is.
Renee's not here, but we're still working on a date.
Okay.
But thank you for giving us your home. Yes, yes.
Thank you. And I'd like to remind all of you that the District 5300 Assembly was recorded. It was all online, and you can go to district5300.org, which will take you to our district's website, and find all of the trainings that were done at this year's district assembly, many of which were actually pretty interesting. And I would also invite you to go to Rotary.org for the recorded version of the international convention that was not held in Hawaii, but was recorded. All the online sessions were recorded. And now, not only are the recorded sessions available, but also the ones that had PowerPoints or any other slides, you can actually download those as well. And again, I think there was a lot of interesting information out there that would be of interest to all of you. And everybody wants to know, where did my dues that I paid last month go? What happened to them? What did we accomplish? And there's an easy way to find out. You didn't even have to fly all the way to Hawaii to find out. So I would invite everyone, when they have a free moment, to look on either one of those websites or both of them. And
I have a question.
yes.
Does the RI one have the Hawaiian music and the beach in the background while we're looking at all those online programs?
It does not, but you can actually link from there to the House of Friendship, which was done virtually for this year's convention, and it does have Hawaiian music. I will ask all of you to remember to RSVP if you're coming to the live meetings. And I know for some people it's difficult to predict a week or two or three in advance, but to the extent that you do know where you're going to be in the next few Thursdays, if you could RSVP to Sean as early as possible, it helps us, it helps Lowry's, and things will go a little bit smoother. And as you can see, Sean is wearing a wig because she's torn her hair out, trying to keep up with the RSVP process. And so if we can make it easier for her, we want to do that. I want to thank everybody who was involved in the setup today, Kathy and Jana, and why am I not seeing everybody? But everyone who helped with the setup and is going to help with the teardown, thank you very much for your service. The last thing I wanted to talk about was I am thrilled to let you know that Rotary International has approved our global grant that was submitted with the help of Rampur from our club to help the Rotary Club of Bangalore downtown provide personal protective equipment for a medical clinic in India. And so again, to the extent you might wonder where your money goes and what it's doing, you're protecting doctors and nurses and healthcare workers in Bangalore. And at this point, apparently Sean is way more efficient than I am. So we've already picked the tickets for the raffle. So for the grand prize, the ticket is 988-2581. (988-2581). And do we tear this up? Thank you. And for the Lowry Bucks, 988-2572. Please enjoy your lunch and fellowship. I probably didn't need to do that, but it's so much fun, I didn't want to miss a chance. Rosalie, do you have some new members you want to introduce?
I do. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to, be back here at lunch with all of my Rotary friends. I'm feeling short because I don't have heels on, so right now I'm standing on my toes to meet the mic.
Can you imagine me now? How I feel?
So I would really love to introduce to you our new member who's going to be inducted officially next week. And this is Alberto Angula. I'm referencing a text that he sent to me about his program that he's in. He's with the Library District, the CALL program, in the English as a Second Language for Adult Education, and he also works part-time with Apple as a bilingual creative genius. So aren't we lucky?
It's just the title. I'm not a genius, obviously.
So everyone, please welcome our newest guest. And officially next week we will pin him.
Oh, I don't know what that means, but yeah.
Not a bad thing.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosalie. And while we're eating, a little bird told me that Thomas was so taken by our discussion of the Alpine picnic, he went ahead and picked a date. And so put it on your calendars. The Alpine picnic will be September the 12th on Mount Charleston at Tom's Cabin. And hopefully we won't have any more fires between now and then. And I'd like to bring Chase up to introduce our speaker today, who has an extraordinarily timely topic, since, I don't know about the rest of you, but at least in our house, we get up each morning and we turn on the TV to find out what we knew about the COVID virus yesterday was no longer what we know about the COVID virus, and what new thing we know about it today, which by tomorrow won't be accurate.
Well, thank you, President Richard. And I'm very thrilled today to be introducing Dr. Weissmiller. Actually, this week is 2 years since I moved to Las Vegas. And Dr. Weissmiller and his partner, Brian, who's here, were some of the first people I met and helped welcome me to my new hometown and made me realize that I definitely belong here. So Dr. David Weissmiller is a professor at the UNLV School of Medicine, Department of Family and Community Medicine, and he's known nationally for educating his colleagues through many learning activities and venues. He's a graduate of the Jefferson Medical School of Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. He is enthusiastic about having the opportunity to help advance the UNLV School of Medicine's education program. So his research activities and interests include preconception health, smoking during pregnancy, prenatal education strategies, curriculum development and evaluation, reflective problem-based learning, and faculty development. So we've got a robust program. I'm sure that you all will be riveted to hear about it. So without further ado, Dr. Weissmiller.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the warm welcome and introduction. And I'm delighted to be here today. I bring greetings from our new school. We'll be celebrating next May when our first class graduates. So I've got to start dusting off my academic regalia because it's been in storage for the last 3 years with no graduation. So when I was first approached about speaking, the context of my talk was going to be really related to medicine as a science. Medicine as a science. Now, you're thinking, why would he talk about that? Well, although I've been in medical education for 25 years now, most of my time is spent seeing patients. And I spend at least 50 to 60% of my time each week right now seeing patients individually. And most of that time is spent educating people. Now, what are we educating about? Well, I might be educating a woman about the fact that, you know, in the old days, we used to do pap smears every year. But the data now demonstrates that we should do them, if you're between the ages of 30 and 65, every 5 years. Okay? Now, most people come in wanting to talk about, please listen to my heart. Well, I said, do you have any heart problems? No. Any heart problems in the family? No. I'm like, we don't need to talk about your heart. What we need to know is what arm you want your influenza immunization in, because that's where I can make a difference. So the gist of this is that it's very confusing to people as to why are things changing all the time. Well, that's because if you go back to the 60s in this country, when I was a wee child, the way we make clinical decisions today, randomized controlled trials, they didn't even exist at that point. We did it based on sound observation. But today, we do it based on data. And many patients will come in and say, but I want this. It can hurt you. Well, how can it hurt me? So fast forward to COVID-19, which is the disease caused by a new human coronavirus. And as your president just alluded to, it changes every day. And we're trying to base our decisions on the best science, and science takes time. Now, I have to give you a little disclosure here. I'm going to come over here just a little bit. So way back in 1984, when I was a senior student at the University of Maryland College Park, I was looking at a place to do my senior thesis project on, one of my degrees, which was in microbiology. Guess where I ended up? I ended up at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences Medical School in Bethesda. It's the medical school of the military. And I worked in the coronavirus lab. And after that, I spent 3 years doing coronavirus research. And fast forward now close to 30 years, I would have never have been thought I would be back talking about coronaviruses. But here we are. Okay. So what do we have here? And I'm going to step out here. I think my voice projects. Oh, I can take it with me. Oh, good. Because I'm not used to standing behind that. Okay. So COVID-19 is the disease that we're talking about right now. And it is caused by the SARS-CoV-2. Now, that's what it looks like. Beautiful thing. All coronaviruses basically have this same structure. And those big red spikes on there, that's the target that attaches to the receptors in your body that causes infection. So I will tell you, when I was doing coronavirus research, what we were focused on was, would there be a way to block the receptor in an animal model so the virus could not attach? Now, why would that be important? Because if you think about it, we're going to use as another example rhinoviruses. They cause common colds. Now, 10% of common colds are caused by human coronaviruses, the alpha coronaviruses. But rhinoviruses cause common colds. There are 90 serotypes. Okay, so you got to have 90 different vaccines. Well, could we develop, but they only have one receptor for all 90 in the human body. So if we could develop something to block that receptor, we could block 90 infections. That work is still going on. Now, in this century, we have had 3 human beta coronaviruses develop. You are familiar with them. Number 1 was the SARS virus. Number 2 was the MERS virus, the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. Interestingly enough, like the COVID, all 3 have come from bats. and they have come through different animals thereafter. The SARS virus came through the civet cat in Chinese animal markets. The MERS virus was passed via camels. And the current virus appears to have been passed via a pangolin, which is this armadillo-type creature. Okay? So all three have come that way. Now, prior to this century, we had 4 human coronaviruses. That's why when patients were coming in and saying, well, this coronavirus has been around because when I look at my Clorox wipes, it says that it's good against human coronaviruses. That's because we already had 4, and about 10% of respiratory illnesses were caused by those. Mild symptoms, usually a common cold. The big problem here with the current coronavirus is its variability, i.e., it affects everyone, and it has exquisite transmittability. You just need to be near it, and you can get it. Now, my other work as a student was in epidemiology, and people are always like, what is that? Well, epidemiology is the study of disease occurrence. How does something happen? Okay, this disease is an epidemiologist's Disney World, okay? Why is that? Well, I want to remind you also, before I tell you, the usual incubation period here for this virus is 5 to 7 days. 3 days before you get symptoms, you're spewing it forth. It may be transmissible for as long as 14 days. That's why when anybody's trying to travel, the current discussion is you should stay quarantined for 14 days upon arrival. Because if you're at the very beginning, we should see it by then. Okay. Now, medicine is a science. Think about this. This is the timetable of the first 2 months of the disease. Now, way over here in the old days, December 29th of last year, there are pneumonia cases linked to a human seafood wholesale market. December 29th. By January 10th, not only had they figured out what the infectious agent was, they had sequenced its entire genetic material. 12 days. That's incredible. Okay? Now, January 10th, we know we got a problem. Okay? It's only now July. We are in the infancy. That is the sad story of this. And we are right now still in the initial phase of this disease in the United States. The initial phase. It was interesting, as I was preparing this presentation, I went back to some notes that I made for an interview I did with one of the local TV stations back in February, when the World Health Organization was suggesting that the United States would be the next epicenter. We are, and we will continue to be, because here is the world as of yesterday. Look at the U.S. We've got over 11 million cases, 550,000 deaths. You think about it, December 29th, we're over here talking about, wow, at some Chinese market, there's an outbreak of some disease. Okay, here's the U.S. As of yesterday, we surpassed 3 million cases. We've had 131,000 deaths. As of yesterday, 60,000 new cases. This is the largest ever reported by a single country. Now, in comparison, there's somewhere between 39 and 56 million cases of flu this past year. We had anywhere from 24,000 to 62,000 deaths. Probably at least 50% of them would be preventable if everyone got their influenza vaccine. Okay. Now, this is the issue in terms of exquisite transmittability. April 28th, about 93 days in, we had 1 million cases in the United States. By June 11th, 2 million. By July 8th, 3 million. Look at this. 94 days, 44 days, 26 days. The next date, July 22nd, in 14 days, we'll be at 4 million cases. That is exquisite transmittability, okay? Now, where are we in Nevada? 23,000 cases, 548 deaths. July 6th, we had the most hospitalizations yet. If we look at Clark County, we've had about 19,000 cases. Look at the cases, though, between July 1st and the 7th. July 1st and the 7th, and you can see there also close to half of those were in younger individuals, all under the age of 49. So what does that mean? Well, if we look at the 7-day average, you can see there the greatest group is the group there between the ages of 18 and 49. Now, they may do better with it, but they may not. And people say, well, why do young people not do as well? They have a good immune system. That's the problem. What? Well, if your immune system works well, it goes full force when it sees the infection, and it basically floods your lungs, as opposed to some of our older members of our society, where their immune system, which is why vaccines don't work as well as you get older, don't respond, don't have quite the issues, if they're otherwise healthy, that younger individuals will have. But you can see there, that's the group. That's the group that we're worried about. Now, here is the hospitalizations, and despite the uptick, this is the good news. That at least as of July 6th, hospitalizations are coming down. Now, why don't we have further data out there? Well, Clark County Health Department says, you know what? The 3 days of data before we report are somewhat squishy. That is an epidemiologic term, squishy. And because of that, it doesn't give us a very good picture. So they tend to lag by about 3 days in their reporting. But as of July 6th, we seem to be coming down. So if that's the background, where are we then? Well, we're in the very early stages. And nobody wants to hear that. But here is one of my biggest faults as a clinician. I tell the truth, and I tell you up front what I'm thinking. Now, for some patients, don't do that to me. They find somebody else. Just like, I don't like you as a plumber, I'm finding somebody else, okay? We're in that first wave. And nobody wants to hear that either, because we're ready to get back to life. But we're in this for a while. What can we do? Please use reliable sources of information, which is not Facebook, Instagram, etc. And you can only take it in small doses, okay? But there are reputable sites out there, including our Centers for Disease Control, including the World Health Organization, including the group at Johns Hopkins, which is really leading the effort right now on the epidemiologic side of this. Transmission. There are potentially 3 routes here. We know about 2. That's droplets, and when the droplets, which are what you sneeze out, that's what that looks like. Yeah. Which is why it's hard to be in close quarters with people. Okay? That's why the Smith Center is indefinitely closed down, and those of us in public health are wondering, and the Allegiant Stadium's going to open? I don't know. But when the droplets hit something that's hard, like your head or a table, they become what we call a fomite. And you come along and scoop it up. Now remember, or you may not know, viruses are what we call obligate intracellular parasites. They cannot live without a host like a bacteria can, okay? So they only last for some period of time. Again, we're in the early stages of this before they are rendered incapable of infection. Now, the big discussion right now is, could all these particles just be floating around? And I'm not in the room, but I walk in the room 2 minutes later and they're all suspended in the air, and I contract the disease that way. The World Health Organization says it is possible. The National Institutes of Infectious and Allergic Diseases says it is possible. But when we look at the science, we don't have science to back this up yet, okay? So at this point, we have to use common sense that says, I need to socially distance as much as possible. Testing. We can test for infection, but keep in mind, particularly those of you who are employers, that tells me at this moment in time, the individual does not harbor the virus potentially, because there are false negatives. Okay, we know that. It doesn't tell me anything about tomorrow, but it tells me about this moment in time. Now, antibody testing. Everybody is really gung-ho on this, and there has been a big rush towards getting antibody tests to market. The problem is, you need to have antibody testing that is specific for COVID-19, not for one of the other 2 beta coronaviruses or the other 4 alpha coronaviruses. 1. Number 2, we can make antibody, which is something called non-neutralizing. You make it and it just sits there doing nothing, you know, kind of like husbands on a Saturday afternoon. You know, they're there, you've made them by marrying them, and then they do nothing. No offense, men. Okay. But we just don't know yet. So before we rush and do antibody testing on everybody, and if we did, it's kind of like weight loss medications. If we had one, everybody would be on it. People come in, do we have any weight loss medications? If we had one, everybody would be on it. If we had antibody testing that worked, my group of colleagues would be the first ones. They would want to be exploring to say, okay, you can go back to the ICU because we know this is not only coronavirus, COVID-19 antibody, but that it works to neutralize the infection if I come up against it again. Treatment. Good news on this. We do have a drug published 22nd of May this year, remdesivir, which is an inhibitor of the virus being able to replicate its genetic material, okay? You got to be able to replicate in order to survive, and this drug interferes with that. It does not cure you, but it decreases hospitalizations, particularly in ICU, from 15 to 11 days. Why is that important? The longer you're on a vent, the worse you do. So if we can decrease that time, it increases survivability. The problem, it's only IV. So it's not yet ready for that individual who potentially comes into the office. So that leaves us where we always are left when we're talking about public health, and that is prevention. How do we do that? We got to continue barriers, we have to continue social distancing, and you have to do good hand washing. Importantly, vaccines are coming down the line. Phase 3 trials, which are the most extensive human component of the trial, will begin here the end of this month. The first data we'll have will be the end of the year or early next year. They have already ramped up production, assuming it's going to work, so we're ready to go. Now, I will tell you, I am a huge proponent of vaccinations because in our last century, they were the greatest advance in public health we had. I'm going to be very interested to see with a brand new vaccine, when I can't get people to accept an old influenza vaccine, whether they're going to take it or not. And that's going to be important because otherwise we have to wait for herd immunity. Okay, everybody's gotten it, so we protect everybody else. That's how vaccines work. They just accelerate that, okay? Right now, we've had about 7 to 8% of the population infected. To have effective herd immunity, 90% have to be infected. Okay, that's a huge number, and to get 90% infected would potentially overwhelm our healthcare system. Okay, because when you think about the number of people who would be severely infected, that could be a huge issue. Okay, that's where we are. I'm happy to entertain questions. I do want to just point out. Thank you. I have put the number up there if you need curbside testing and any additional information you would like on our website at unlvmedicine.org. I've given you my office information. If I can ever be of help, answer any questions, I'm happy to do that. So questions, yes, sir.
So the first one, your belief is no public gatherings, large public gatherings, like in the Allegiant Stadium, no UNLV football, no Raiders, till at least next year when vaccines are out, that type of thing. How do we cope, I guess?
How do we cope? Yeah. That's a really good question. I think the current data would support, as you look at, let me go back here for just a second to one other slide. Oops. Let me go back here. Where's the, okay. Yeah. So let's take a look at this slide. Okay. Let me emphasize here. This was shut down. Oops. Okay. Here's the shutdown. Here's when we opened. And that's the number of new confirmed cases. Okay? So in the absence of treatment and in the absence of a vaccine, we know that social distancing makes a difference. So I'm not personally advocating we gotta keep everybody apart, but the data is definitely advocating that social distancing makes a difference. Now, there are many variables that come into that. We recognize that. I think we're beginning to see that discussion. Not a huge area, but the Ivy League schools have decided that they will not be having any sports this fall. Okay, but this is a conversation unlike we have ever had. I mean, I have not had this in my career in medicine. Okay, so this is unlike anything we have seen. And when we look at medicine as a science, medicine as a science today is kind of like being a new teacher. You're one day ahead of the kids. We are one day ahead of where we can be in making recommendations sometimes. Okay? But I think this particular slide, as we look at this dramatic rise, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have opened, I just want what the data says is, and this is not just because we're doing more testing, that number is increased. And
So-
the concerning part over here is this 47.9%, which is younger individuals.
Yeah, so my follow-up question is, are cases necessarily bad? Because you said that's part of the key to herd immunity. And I noticed for the state of Nevada, from May to June, we had triple the cases and 1/3 of the deaths.
Right.
And the deaths are tracking for the first 8 days of this month more like June than they were like May, but they're still above June, but not significantly above.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, let me go back to one other slide here, just to make a point. Where was that? Okay, I don't have that one in here. I thought I put it in. Okay, so yes. Through normal exposure, people are going to get exposed. But everybody's heard this term flattening the curve, okay? And the concern is if we're not able to manage the number of cases, then the hospital systems become overwhelmed. And for example, that's some of the part we've seen here in the South. So if you look over there in southeastern United States where it's really dense red, Those are the states that did not put into place as extensive precautions in terms of social distancing that other states did. And unfortunately, the data shows they're suffering. Good, bad, that's a whole nother discussion. But you can see there that that particular area of the country is suffering. Similar with Arizona, not as stringent of precautions, much more disease, okay? So there's going to continue to be exposure. The challenge is, how do we handle the exposure, because exposure leads to hospitalizations and utilization of healthcare services for which we can project the system can be overloaded. Yes, sir.
So you work in a laboratory with facts and science. Out here, we've gotten some conflicted messages at best. Masks work, don't work, 6 feet, not 6 feet. I've heard that folks with O-type blood are more resistant to either getting infected or dying as a result of this. That's part one of my question.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the beginning where you say, do this, don't do this, do this, don't. Okay, that's what I'm emphasizing today, which is medicine is science. Okay, the science is changing. Okay, and similar to the example I gave, you know, when patients come in and say, but I need this, I'm like, we don't do that anymore. Let me just add, in medicine, the practice of medicine, every year of all the medical literature that's published, only 1% to 2% is ready for use, okay? Of that 1% to 2% ready for use, where it would change the outcome for a patient, full adoption takes a decade, okay? Full adoption takes a decade. That's your doctor, okay? Your doctor is taking a decade to implement things that were ready 10 years ago. Okay, so the issue here, though, is the data is going to change. The recommendations are going to change as we continue to develop more science around this, because remember, we've had, 4 decades to study cholesterol and what our recommendations are. We've had 5 months with a brand new virus. Brand new virus. Now, in terms of particular attributes of the human body, blood type, that may or may not contribute to this, again, this is epidemiologic data that shows, you know what, it seems as though of all the people that have got infected, less of them have O-positive type blood. That may bear out. That may bear out. But remember, for all the women in the room, 25 years ago, or 20 years ago when I was a resident, the observational data, which is what we're talking about here, said, you know what, women who are on hormone therapy have fewer heart attacks. And then we did a randomized controlled trial and put women on hormone therapy, and guess what? We were killing them. So we said, oh, we better stop that, okay? So observations don't necessarily have a cause and effect endpoint. And that's what you're dealing with here, okay? And we've got to collect a lot of data to be able to do that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Weissmuller. And I noticed as you were speaking, the masks that we all had in our pockets were coming out and going on, so I think people were listening. And thank you very much for your presentation. We give each speaker a Share What You Can award, and you'll see we're buying a dinner for the USO Community Service Program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I know many of you were looking at me because you thought, who is that svelte fashion model with the really gorgeous face mask? Where could I get one of those face masks? Well, I'm here to tell you, our fashion consultant, Sean, has them for sale as a club fundraiser if you'd like one of these really special face masks. I can tell you one of the advantages of wearing this face mask, because it's big enough, the word Rotary is big enough on here, the symbol, people see it and want to know, oh, I've heard about Rotary, I think. That's where old men sit around and eat lunch and smoke cigars, right? And it gives you a great opportunity to explain that we're not all old. The other fashion statement I'm making today that you may be jealous of is I have somewhere, here we go, the current pin for our current Rotary International President's theme for this year, which is Rotary Opens Opportunities. And if you do go to the International Convention website and you watch his presentation, you will see that he views this coronavirus as not a terrible thing, but a great opportunity to do things differently and do things maybe better than we've been doing them in the past, or at least to try out some innovative things. And I don't want to try to condense his half-hour talk into 2 minutes, but he has some really, really interesting thoughts about how we can make this a great year. So again, I would urge you to take a look at that. And with that, did somebody want to sing? Oh, it's too much fun to hit that.